What's going on there, folks? Earthmaster here, jumping in on this early Sunday evening, January 10th, 2021, 5:20 p.m. West Coast time is the date today and time. Looking at the USGS map from the last 24 hours, 2.5 and above for the US, 4.0 and above for the international folks there. Shows a continued deep movement up here off the coast of Taiwan, 4.9 striking 147 kilometers down below the surface. There's some pretty deep movement taking place there. They did have a smaller earthquake there, 4.7 about last night time frame, near the surface at 11 kilometers below. The deep movement continues down here. Solomon Islands area, Fiji area, Vanuatu. I could do it, right? Vanuatu, right? There we go. You don't know how many times I practiced that before I got on here and did the update video, but Vanuatu. Okay, we got it. 6.1 struck there last night, early this morning. 160 kilometers downstream there. Check out the depth of some of these earthquakes there. That 4.6 there. South of Fiji, 493 kilometers. This is just a continued sign of some major plate movement downstream there, down below the surface here. And this is just over the last 24 hours. Over the past couple days or so, we've seen some 6-pointers. I would say the past few days, quite a few 6-pointers popping off here. Very deep movement, and I tell you what, there's definitely something cooking down there. Some major brewing going on potentially up here for the folks up here to the north. I would say at the surface levels, we'll have to keep a very close eye on this region up here, but the deep movement does continue. Not a whole lot of surface quaking around the Fiji Islands area. Looks like 51 kilometers over here near the Papua New Guinea region. But that's about it. Taking a look at the rest of the globe here. Chile still, or not Chile, the Argentina region still seeing some earthquake activity. South America, right? They did have that 6.1 that struck the region there. Again, that was overnight, early this morning. And that earthquake struck at about 217 kilometers downstream there, 6.1 in the Argentina area. I tell you what, that some deep movement as well, folks. Subducting area here, the Peru-Chile Trench, major player when it comes to some megaquakes there. Any potential subducting area is very capable of producing some megaquakes there. But for now, just a 6-pointer inland, but downstream there. In the South America area. Speaking of the subducting areas, I do kind of want to run over subducting area here in the New Zealand region called the Hikurangi Trench, Hikurangi Subducting Area. There's a couple different pronunciations. I'll go with Hikurangi or Hikurangi, one of those two. I looked at tons of pronunciations on that, and that's what it gave me. Anyway, there's a subducting area right here that is very possible in the future, no doubt it will happen, producing and mimicking a 9.0 earthquake or greater. Well, pretty much about the same as what Japan seen a few years ago when they had that 9-pointer strike off the coast there, the east coast, and produce all those tsunamis and whatnot. Did you guys hear that big boom? Somebody lighting off fireworks out here, sound like. So yeah, I want to show you guys the map here real quick of the plate tectonics. Okay, this is just going to be a simple plate tectonics map here. You can see down over towards the Australia area, New Zealand area, right smack dab there at New Zealand, north of Wellington there. You got the plates there of the Pacific plate and the Australian plate with two arrows pointing next to, or pointing directly at each other. That's a subducting area, right? The same goes for off the coast of Japan up there, the Alaska area, and also the Juan de Fuca plate in the northwest. Even though it doesn't show the arrows pointing there at the Juan de Fuca plate off the coast of Northern California, Oregon, and Washington, there is that subducting area and other areas around the region. The Indian plate and also down there off the coast of Costa Rica area that area is also a subducting region as well. But I want to focus in on the New Zealand area and talk a little bit about the potential for a megaquake along the Hikurangi Trough, the Hikurangi Subducting region. This area does see some slow slip events as well. Kind of looking into some information on that, far as like getting a potential graph of maybe how much tremor does take place down there. But that black line with the arrows, if you will, pointing, right, kind of pointing towards the New Zealand area, towards the Gisborne and the Napier region, Wellington area as well, right? That is the subducting area. It's called the trench or the trough. It's basically an oceanic trench in the bed of the Pacific Ocean off the east coast of the North Island of New Zealand, lying between the southern end of Cook Strait and the Chatham Rise. It is the southward continuation of the much deeper Kermadec Trench. That subducting area has not seen a megaquake in quite some time, folks. There's a lot of information on it, but historical information when it comes to record keeping and whatnot is just it's very minimal, right? As far as keeping records of earthquakes and whatnot, just due to the the inhabitants and whatnot over the past hundreds and thousands of years. Here's a little bit of information that I found from ScienceDirect.com, their article that got put out a while ago. The Hikurangi subduction margin, New Zealand has not produced large subduction earthquakes within the short written historic period. That's what I was talking about there, the written historic period. And the potential of the plate interface to host large, greater than 8.0, and tsunamis is poorly constrained. The geological record of the past subduction earthquakes offers a method for accessing the location, frequency, and approximate magnitude of subduction earthquakes and whatnot. We identified 10 past possible subduction earthquakes over the past 7,000 years along the Hikurangi margin, the subducting area. The last subduction earthquake occurred at 520 to 470 years in the southern section, right in the southern margin of it. The strongest evidence for a full margin rupture, similar to that of the 1700 Cascadia rupture, full rupture, is roughly at about 870 to 815 BP. So a lot of time has passed with the buildup of whatnot of pressure here in this region. That, like I said, there is a tremendous amount of information out here, and I'm not going to go through it all. I just kind of want to point out the potential for damaging earthquakes and tsunami out there in this New Zealand region. Like I said, this whole area right here is subduction area. You can see the active fault structure, historic subduction interface earthquakes, some smaller ones, right? Let's go back over here to this map here. I pulled up the last, I went back to 1800, but it technically only goes to 1917 here. 6.0 and above, the largest one, at least in this area. Let's see here. Let me back out a little bit and show you guys. I believe it was at 7.8. Let me double check here, see if I can find that. Yes, 7.8 off the coast, but way down here, right? Not even in that subducting area that we're looking at. There's definitely been a whole bunch of 6-pointers and above, but no megaquakes to report here along the Hikurangi Trench area, the subducting area. A couple smaller, 6.0, right? Kind of surface quaking there, 15 kilometers. Really no major deep subducting earthquakes there in this region that I'm seeing. There's a little deep earthquake right there, 165 kilometers with that 7.0 back in 1947. But the subducting locked area out here, kind of similar to any subducting area along the plate boundaries of the Earth has not seen any major release of pressure in quite some time. And of course, the further this goes on and on, it's very possible that that's going to be a major quake when it does kick. Let's see, New Zealand has a short written historic period of only about 180 years since European arrival, and during that time the Hikurangi subduction margin has not produced an earthquake, any earthquakes of 7.2 or above let's see, wow, what is that word? Have inhibited New Zealand since 700 to 800 years before present, right, BP? And although accounts of earthquakes and tsunamis occur in oral histories, they are difficult to attribute to specific sources, right? It could be a tsunami from who knows what, somewhere in Chile or anywhere else that may have produced a tsunami there along the coast of New Zealand. A lot of buildup, a lot of stress has taken place out here. There's some this whole page is enormous amount of information on this, and this could turn into an hour-long video, and I don't want to make it an hour-long video. But if you are interested in learning more about the New Zealand Hikurangi Trench area and the potential for a megaquake, potential for tsunami, they're talking about potential for a 30-meter high tsunami hitting the east coast there if this one does hit. And that's what, 98 feet? Close to 100 feet? 100-foot high tsunami that these folks are talking about. Let me see where that was at. I remember seeing that up here in this article, which was put out June 2019. But there's so much in here, folks. I don't even know what happened to it. But if you are interested in checking it out, I will leave a link, folks, to this wealth of information and scientific data on the Hikurangi Trench area and subducting area. A rupture of New Zealand's largest fault line could cause damage and destruction on a scale comparable to the Japan quake of 2011, right? I mentioned that earlier, with tsunami waves as high as 30 meters. 30-meter high tsunami, and you will not have an advance warning similar to Japan, right? Because it's so close to the coastline. Let's see what else these guys. A Hikurangi megathrust quake, the same strength as the one that hit Japan, would release definitely a tremendous amount of energy, right? 11,000 times the energy of the 2007 Christchurch quake. I remember that one. Lots of potential scenarios. Let's see here. New Zealand's recorded history is much shorter, as we mentioned in numerous articles. So the frequency at which the Hikurangi zone ruptures is not well understood, but scientists believe it's capable of causing a magnitude 9.0 megathrust quake, folks, which would be devastating to the folks over there in New Zealand. And most because of its locations and our prior lack of research, the result could be a lot worse. Because the subduction zone is closer to us than it was in Japan, like I mentioned, we would have large tsunamis and we wouldn't have as much warning. They could come in as early as 6 minutes, and that would be very devastating to people near the coast. You could have up to a 15, 20, 30 meter wave if you're right on the coast. So once again, folks, with all this plate movement going around, no potential for, or not no potential, but no mega quakes in certain areas where we've seen them historically in the past, it's probably a good idea to, pay attention to some of these areas that are pretty quiet. Haven't seen any mega release of pressure in quite some time. And that goes for the Cascadia subduction zone. That goes for any subduction area. It could include also the Chile area, that subduction area, Puerto Rico Trench region, any areas that can produce a 9.0 earthquake that haven't seen substantial amount of release of pressure, such as the one in Japan. is obviously a target, for a future earthquake, a large one. So the best thing I could recommend, folks, New Zealand area, Gisborne, Napier region, Wellington, this whole area is not going to be good if that 9.0 hits along this region. It's not fear-mongering. It's basically good to be informed of the potential danger off the coast. I know it's a beautiful area, North Island, but this region here, and I'm sure a lot of the folks down there know, or hopefully they know, about the potential threat in the future, and who knows when that may happen. Like I mentioned here on this little map here, going back 100 years or so, 150 years, there's just no major releases of stress out here along the plate, this locked area of the Hikurangi Subduction zone here. 7.1 back in 2001 on the northern end, about 33 kilometers down, and some deeper ones inland as well. But it's still building out there, folks. It's a very locked area, I guess, if you will. I really want to see if there's any sites to check out when it comes to slow slip events down here in the New Zealand area. If you are watching in New Zealand and you are aware of tremor movement and whatnot, or if you know a website down there, send a link down in the comments below, and because I really want to check that out. If it's anything similar to the tremor map in the Pacific Northwest, along with the Cascadia Subduction Zone, which is quiet today. I've got to go back to tomorrow. Back to tomorrow. Back to the future. Back to yesterday. You could see areas along the subduction region, downstream, where pressure is kind of slowly slipping, if you will, and you can kind of get a general idea of which portions of the plate are slipping, where it could be potentially building up pressure here. I've always said, when I look at the Cascadia Subduction Zone here, for example, that this region here sees an enormous amount of tremor all the way down here to the southern part of Cascadia, right, in Northern California, all the way up to off the coast of Vancouver Island. But we really don't see specifically a whole bunch of tremor movement in the centralized area of Oregon. It happens now and then, but not as much as the other areas. So I think, if anything, that's potentially where we're going to see the most strain as this plate continues to subduct underneath the North American plate, right, the Juan de Fuca plate, in many areas to the north and south, except, as not as much there in Central Oregon. I've always said this is where it could start, the rupture could, or at least where the next mega quake could potentially happen off the coast of Central Oregon there. And that sucks big time, because it's a beautiful area, but it's not going to be beautiful when the 9.0 hits there. It's going to be deadly and pretty bad. So it's just good to be prepared. So yeah, I want to know if potentially there is a website there in the New Zealand area that does monitor the slow slip event movements. I'm sure there is in this subducting area called the Hikurangi Trench region. For now, pretty quiet, folks. I mean, we can go over here to the let's see here. Where is it? Let me see if I can find it. 1 second here. We've got to go to the GeoNet website, and we can check out the last earthquakes there around the New Zealand region, because USGS just does not cover the information there in New Zealand unless it's above 4.0. So yeah, it shows some weak earthquakes there right near Wellington region, and some further activity southward, but not a whole lot of movement there. Well, there's that one right there. That's kind of a little bit closer north of Wellington region. But the depth of this earthquake, 14 kilometers, they're kind of surface quaking in that region. But nonetheless, folks, the danger does exist out there in the Hikurangi subduction area. Let's see what else we got to cover real quick, folks. I'll go ahead and do a real quick update. There's that 6-pointer that struck down in Let's see here. I'm thinking that's the one that hit down in the Argentina region, showing up on some of the Yellowstone stations there. Of course, Yellowstone, any seismograph station, definitely capable of picking up the faraway quakes. Some small earthquakes there being reported in the borehole area of Yellowstone National Park. That's kind of north of the Lake Yellowstone region. Other than that, activity pretty quiet and not a whole lot to report in that area. Into parts of Northern California, let's go ahead and check that out real quick with the all magnitudes here. Pretty quiet for the most part. I mean, there's obviously going to be continued microquakes on any given day, but looking at this, it's very quiet. What's not very quiet is potential swarming going on over here near the Salton Sea. Of course, they did have that 4.1 that struck in this area, and I thought that was going to trigger the swarm, but it died down for a couple days. Now it looks like it may be picking back up here with about 22 earthquakes here. Salton Sea region, and these are hitting about 1 or 2 kilometers below surface. Going to watch this area pretty closely. Over the past hour, no earthquakes to report, but that could change very rapidly. Over here near the Riverside area, the latest quake here, the microquake 1.8 near the Redlands of California. And looking up here to the north along the San Andreas, pretty quiet. Some activity along the Hayward Fault, just some microquakes and some renewed quakes there, microquakes in the Nevada area. But other than that, folks, not a whole lot to report. Idaho still seeing some quakes. No quakes to report along the volcano chain of the Cascades or the Sierra Nevada mountains. So pretty quiet there in that neck of the woods. What else we got here, folks? I think that was about it. Yeah, just kind of just wanted to cover, a little bit about this subducting area down there. A lot of people haven't heard about it in New Zealand region. There's just, like I said, this page is enormous when it comes to information and dynamic drawings and whatnot of how the subduction area could release a quake and whatnot. But I will include this link up here, folks. Okay, so go check it out if you want a little bit more information on it. And we'll kick up this live stream right now. I know the live stream went down. Not for sure what happened, but that's all right. We'll kick it back up. So have a good night, everyone. We'll see you guys on the live stream. Peace out.